Thank you, everybody, and welcome. When Kyle asked me to stand next to her today, she emphasized it was always just the two of us. Kyle was right. Despite campaigning for a brother and for a while a dog, neither of those things happened, and it was always just us. So while it's very obvious to everybody here that I'm Kyle's sister, there are people here who said I have older sister energy. Not sure my parents or Kyle will agree, but we'll take it. Also not true. I'm 19 months younger, so I spent my entire life vying for Kyle's attention. For the first few years, Kyle and I shared a bedroom, so in an effort to get Kyle's attention, every night I would throw my stuffed animals at her one by one, and I had a lot of stuffed animals. So much that my parents have 6 boxes of stuffed animals that they're now moving to Boulder. Kyle entertained it for a bit. She would politely walk them back over to me until she realized I was just going to throw them again. She started to leave them there, and I was too afraid to get out of my bed to get them myself, so that was the end of the game for the night. When we moved to Acton, we had separate bedrooms, so anytime Kyle wanted to do something with me, I immediately said yes, including when Kyle and Annie told Claire and I to roll into balls and they'd push us down the stairs, which was cool until I hit the wooden railing on the landing. I've always looked up to Kyle, so growing up, I'd wait for her to get dressed first, only to put on the closest match of an outfit that I could find so that people at the bakery would ask if we were twins, which only fueled my antics and made Kyle really upset. Starting in 4th grade, I had the same teacher Kyle had the year before. Kyle was very good at school. She tried very hard, so the teachers were excited to have me. After the excitement of having Kyle's sister in class and often being called Kyle, they quickly learned that we were not the same, which led to great disappointment on their end and more than a few meetings between mom and my teacher, so thank you, Kyle. Now, my friends and I often talk about the nicest thing we've ever done for one another. For Kyle, that also came when I was in 4th grade. I broke my leg skiing, so she would leave her classroom, come down the hall, come into my classroom, say hi to my teacher. They're both very excited. And wheel me in my wheelchair to the bathroom. So while I probably didn't say it in 4th grade, thank you, Kyle. As we got older, life got busier and we started doing different things. For vacation, we stopped going to Banff to ski, and in Hawaii, Kyle was more focused on tanning on the beach instead of boogie boarding. Kyle was still smarter academically, sneaky athletic, and had a great group of friends, and our parents were very proud. So, when we had to write about our heroes in English class senior year, it wasn't a hard decision. I wrote about Kyle. Once I turned in my paper, Mrs. Anthony asked if I would ever tell Kyle I wrote about her, and I said absolutely not. But when I thought about this speech 12 years later, I asked Dad to look through the old kitchen computer files to find that paper. Unfortunately, he couldn't, so Kyle, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Which is, if you think about it, probably the nicest thing I've ever done for you, yet this is the first time you're hearing about it, and there is no evidence. But when it came to this brother that I always wanted, that was still a work in progress. But Mother's Day 2009, I thought this was finally going to happen for me. Mom was at yoga, and there was a card on the counter, and I don't remember exactly what it said. Dad was very creative with cards and poems and puzzles and things like that. But somewhere where the words were baby, Africa, and adoption. So, thought we were adopting a brother from Africa. We met Mom at the bakery after her yoga class, and I told her the news, and she kind of looks at Dad and looks back at me and says, I don't think we're adopting a brother because that seems like something that Dad and I would have talked about first. Very good point. She was right. Unfortunately, they adopted an elephant in Africa, which is very cool, but not what I had been asking for the last 12 years. So back to the drawing board with the whole brother thing, carrying on just the two of us. Why did I want a brother so bad? While Kyle is a great sister, good enough to write a hero paper about, there are some things that Kyle lacks that the brother of mine could fill the gaps on. One, somebody who likes sports and would want to watch the Patriots on Sundays. Somebody who liked to ski and would encourage Kyle to start skiing again. And somebody who wanted to play games on the beach and not just sit there for hours on end without snacks. Side note, if you don't know, my family does not eat during the day between coffee at Starbucks in the morning and dinner at night. Enter Joe. I found out about Joe because my mom called me one day and told me that Kyle was dating a boy named Joe. The first time I ever met him, he ran the obstacle course race my company put on in Brooklyn. Twice now, he's helped me move, including on a Monday last July with 30 minutes notice the day he got back from a bachelor party. And my first time backcountry skiing was with Joe, where we skinned up for 2.5 hours and got to the top, and I took my skis off, not knowing that you have to put the brakes down on your skis because that doesn't happen automatically. Ski went flying down the mountain. Joe got up, chased it down the hill, hiked all the way back up with it. Very kind. Yeah. Not sure I would have done the same thing, but now that Joe's done it, I owe him one. But most importantly, Joe is a Bills fan, so we watched the Bills lose to the Patriots together every December. He got Kyle to like skiing again. And he can't sit still on the beach forcing family pickleball tournaments while always making sure to pack the beers and snacks. Now, a little bit more about me. I am the award-winning author and co-illustrator of a very popular book, My Dad's on a Business Trip Again. If you know anything about our family, or based off the title of that book alone, you probably realize that travel is a big part of it. Before Kyle and Joe moved to my city, Denver, most of my time with Joe had been spent either in Hawaii or foreign countries, although luckily I was not with Kyle and Joe in Norway and I've never traveled Joe's way. But what's impressed me most is whether Joe is stuck with us on a boat in Antarctica or learning and disrupting our family's very rigid Hawaii routines. I've seen Kyle and Joe together for weeks on end. For years now, I've seen how they complement each other, support each other, and grow together without breaks from each other or me, mom, and dad. Kyle and Joe, you've navigated the world together and apart, from fairy tale vacations to life's toughest challenges, while building a partnership that I and everyone here truly admire. Joe, you're everything I hope for Kyle and for me, and and blend into our family effortlessly. And Kyle, while the original hero paper is long gone, the topic still holds true. I'm so excited for you both in your future and couldn't be more excited to watch it happen. Love you guys.
So you're going to want to be as close to this as possible.
Okay. That's why I wanted to go first. Corey, wow. To start here, thank you everyone for making a journey out to this absolute stunning vista of a destination. It doesn't get much better than this. Come on. And I can't think of a place that more beautifully represents this next beautiful journey in life for the two of you, Joe and Kyle. Special thanks to everyone who made this picturesque weekend possible. So as of late, Joe has been making a joke of introducing himself as the eldest son, sneaking that son in as quietly as possible in an attempt to pass as the oldest. In following in his footsteps, as I have most of my life, and not willing to pass up the opportunity to give him my own little taste of his own medicine. Hey everyone, Tommy Comer, the taller brother. I've had the pleasure of knowing Joe through all of his different varying life phases. Whether it was the young, husky kid wearing underwear from the resale store Finders Keepers, the same underwear that was then passed down to me, or the rebellious, Bieber-haired teenager who could either be found at the Leopard Lounge or catching a ride home from APD. Then there's the high and tight haircut, young NYC consultant slash crypto bro slash part-time NYP detective. And also the rugged mountain man, world traveler, trafficking high-value minerals across the continent of Africa. And then as you see him today, an eclectic mix of tech entrepreneur and Denver bro, but now most importantly, husband. In order to fully understand Joe, we need to go back and all the way back. And who best to tell us his origin story than the one who brought him into this world and the one who threatened she could always take him out of it if she so chose. A letter from Mom reflecting on Joe's birth. Joseph, you made your way into this world dangerously. Of course, with the umbilical cord wrapped around your neck. I didn't even get to hold you. Dad took my chin, looked me straight in the eye, and said, I'm going wherever Joe is going. I will follow him every step of the way. You stay here. As if I was jumping up and going anywhere. He disappeared for hours, following you around for every test to see if you had significant loss to oxygen to your brain. I still wonder, JK. Just to clarify, those were all Mom's words, not mine. The dangerous way in which you entered this world, I think, still rings true today in the beautiful way in which you approach and live your life, diving headfirst for thrill. It's either that or it's due to the fact that 9 days after your birth, Dad dropped you directly on your head. On the concrete. If you did not know, Jean Comer, our mother, loved hanging up little signs with phrases and sayings on them. And one such one that hung outside Joe and I's room growing up read as such. Brother, will you, ... build forts, shoot hoops, teach me to skip rocks, tell me stories in the dark, always be my friend? In reality, this looked more like, brother, will you, build contraptions to catch squirrels, let me shoot you point blank with the paintball gun, teach me how to avoid getting in trouble at Notre Dame, tell me stories about how I'm adopted, and always beat the crap out of me. While cut from the same proverbial cloth, Joe and I have always had a slightly different way we approach some situations. Back in middle school, I had worked in the yard all summer to save up for a model helicopter, my latest 10 or 12-year-old obsession at the time. And I remember that day vividly. No longer than 15 minutes after this package arrived, while I'm inside diligently studying the flying tips and all of that, Joe's outside giving it a spin for the first time. The helicopter took its maiden and final flight of about 3 full seconds, with its pilot Joe launching it up into the air and directly back onto the driveway, shattering into a million pieces. I won't comment on if there were tears, but I was definitely upset with my wise, responsible older brother. Fast forward about 6 years, I received some great news regarding an ACT score, and to share the excitement, of course, had to wake up Joe in the middle of the night to let him know. Matching my excitement and obviously his deep-seated desire to make matters right, he took his first big boy New York City bonus and splurged on me, as well as himself, in the purchase of a superior flying machine, a drone. Even after all of these years, that moment sticks with me. Not because of the novelty of a new toy, although we had a lot of fun with it. It was the way in which you went out of your way to recognize people and celebrate their wins, as you do so often in your life. Or maybe it was just a way to say thank you for intercepting all of those disciplinary letters from the University of Notre Dame. Mom and Dad always found out, spoiler alert. For all the trouble you made, Joe, I hope you know for that as long as I've known you, or for as long as I can recall existing in this world, I've always looked up to you in every way, attempting to emulate all aspects, good or bad. Whether envying the stud athlete you were in high school, your ability to somehow remain a student at Notre Dame, but above all, the way in which you attract and retain an incredible quality of people in your life. You are infectious, as many have said this weekend. While always looking to my older brother for age-relevant life guidance, it's likely not surprising that Dad was my ultimate exemplar. Whether you fully realize it or not, you made such an immense difference in gracefully filling that void in my life following Dad's passing. You were still my annoying brother that could still drive me up a wall constantly, but you stepped in and stepped up for me and this family in such a way that I truly struggle to articulate. While loss and grief is such an insurmountable experience, you were there for me, our siblings, and many people in this room and countless others. As Dad would put it, you answered the bell. The following The following words are Mom reflecting on this. I learned that Joe was willing to exercise a wisdom well beyond his years, using the gift of intuition to help others and lead when we were at a loss, looking to our fearless leader. Even though to hide his light under a bush and fly below the radar is more comfortable. While navigating your own grief and loss at a young age, you supported us all in remarkable ways through the most difficult times for our family. Thank you for being there. Thank you for having a profound impact on the man I've become today. And thank you for continuing to be my role model, but more importantly, my friend. While I'm certain we'll remain best of friends for life, there are two things I've accepted will fully never understand. The first being the whereabouts of America's Most Wanted, Michael Gode. And the second being how you got so lucky to be loved by someone so graceful, so immensely patient with you, and someone who shares your fire and curiosity of the world and compassion for others. Hi, Kyle. While Joe played it so cool the first time he met Kyle, which cool in Joe's playbook means say hi, buy her a drink, and then proceed to mildly ignore her for the rest of the evening and get her number through a mutual friend. On the contrary, I'd like to think Kyle and I had a bit of a meet cute of sorts. In classic Joe fashion, he informed me about 5 minutes before arriving to the family Airbnb for Easter that Kyle was the only one at the Airbnb. I'd be meeting her one-on-one for the first time and walking her about 20 or 30 minutes to go meet up with the rest of the family. Of course. I quickly learned what everyone here knows about Kyle, simply the best. Fast forward later that night, again, in classic Joe fashion, one more drink, one more game of pool. Couldn't go to bed. So Kyle and I toughed it out because we love this guy, right? Next thing you know, Kyle and I proceed to fall asleep on each other's shoulders on the couch at the bar for probably a good hour before Joe finally dragged us back home. Even as Joe and Kyle grew more serious, Joe had to at least keep playing it cool with me in regard to his relationship. One weekend I'm visiting Joe in New York City. We're going for a nice evening stroll around Seaport, grabbing random bites of mystery meat from the street, as well as some of New York's finest slices. After some time, he happens to mention that Kyle's throwing just, a little bit of a pregame with a couple of friends. We should stop by. So I ask him, how far do we have to walk to get there? He proceeds to point at the apartment building directly in front of us, and he had been leading me there the entire time without any of my clue. At this point, Kyle is fully baptized into the chaos of the Comer family. And while I describe Kyle as the polar opposite of chaos due to her calming presence, I'm in belief she loves the chaos. During COVID, when we're all back home in Buffalo working from the house, Kyle refused a private room, refused an office. She wanted to work right in the kitchen or take a call from the living room couch, waiting for the next Comer to walk down and ask Mom for the first time in a while, what the heck's for dinner? What I learned about Kyle in those first couple of years is that, firstly, she loves guy time with Joe and I. That much is evident. There was quite a bit of it. And she loves entertaining, to a reasonable degree, any of the quick projects of Joe's suggestion. Well, Joe, here begins the single most important project of your life, being a husband. Don't screw this one up. As is evident, Kyle, I'd say we hit it off from the beginning. Prior to you entering our life, I'd say another sister was probably not on the top of my list of needs. Even though you've eternally altered my brother's sweet tooth and the need to have it satiated instantly after dinner, it is truly my honor to be up here today and to call you my sister. Kyle, you bring such a needed, graceful balance to Joe's life, with all of us being the beneficiaries. Whether it's putting a pause on projects or helping him to slow down, even just for the smallest moments, you keep him grounded. While we've got along quite well thus far, Kyle, we have our work cut out for us if we're ever going to take down Joe and Corey on the Maui pickleball court, and I couldn't look forward to it more. Now, Joe might poke fun at me at times for being a hoarder. I struggle to throw things out sometimes. I'm happy to report I still have the letter Joe wrote me for Kairos, which for those unaware is a Catholic coming-of-age retreat in high school. You ended your letter with a few bullet points of advice for me, which I will regurgitate to you as you embark on this journey of partnership. Appreciate mom and dad. I think we do that well, especially you. You gotta know yourself. Embrace difference. Disconnect from the need to be heard and defined. Stay hungry and stay foolish. You've got that one well covered. To close, I'd like to share a phrase that has half jokingly and half seriously carried our family through some of the most challenging moments as of late. Please join me in repeating the famous words of Maximus Decimus Meridius. Strength and honor. I love you both.
So I'm not sure which is worse or more challenging. Being the last person standing between all of you and the party, or following Corey and Tommy. Well done, guys. Well done. Welcome, everybody. It is truly incredible to see so many absolutely amazing people here in support of Kial and Joe. And it's been a fabulous weekend, and haven't met all of you, I don't think, or at least not for the second time first or something like that. But so when Kial and Joe started planning this wedding, they knew they had a lot of people, family, friends they wanted to invite, and they decided they did not want to have a destination wedding because they wanted to have something where everybody could come and participate and spend time with each other. So recognizing that, for the most part, nobody here in this room really lives in Colorado. Welcome to the non-destination wedding destination wedding. When Joe asked Kathy and I and Corey for approval to marry Kial last year, Kathy immediately said yes and gave him a big hug before he was halfway through his speech. She wasn't waiting. I said, my approach was different. I said, Joe, I don't own Kial. And Corey I didn't know when I wrote this, but we just heard, Corey said, I think, so we weren't there, finally, a brother. So Joe, Kial does not come with a user manual. Kind of complex. But if you have a need for technical support, I recommend calling Kathy. Because, like your dad, I traveled a lot, in Kial's early years, and I think Kathy deserves an oversized share of the credit for the wonderful person that Kial has become. Now, for years, people had told me that, the best thing about your daughter getting married was you never had to worry anymore about did the oil get changed in their car. Now, our situation was a little bit different, and I knew Joe was a keeper. The year Kial called up and said, Dad, you don't need to help me with my income taxes this year. Joe's going to do them. Thank you, Joe. We've spent a lot of time on vacation with Joe. We've played a number of games of golf. Joe, as you may have noticed, that the Comer family in general is very competitive and likes to turn everything into a competition. I, on the other hand, judge a good game of golf by the company I keep. And the good news is, Joe is great company, and he keeps score enough for both of us. When Joe first came to Hawaii, he wanted to do everything every day. And Kial sort of said, Joe, that's just not the way we do Hawaii. And they kind of agreed on a model that said, one day we'll do an activity and the next day we'll relax and go to the beach and back and forth. And then I organized a cooking class. And it took most of the day. And that was only problematic in as much as it didn't fit either of those models for Joe. Now, Joe enjoyed the cooking class, I think. We've enjoyed his cooking on a couple of occasions, and we look forward to a lot more meals together in Joe's cooking as Kathy and I, move to Colorado. So, now, in many respects, Joe is a little Kathy. Or sorry, Kyle is a little Kathy. Kyle is a little Kathy. You know, a friend and confidant to many. Somebody who likes to help people grow and all of that. So, you know, a real toast to Kathy and all of this and what she's brought to this whole party here. But Kyle and Kathy are different in as much as Kyle is much more of a risk taker. And we may have heard that some of that is a learned sport over all this, but when Kyle was a toddler, we were out in the backyard, and we were on the swing, and Kyle goes, "Dad, let's go really high and scare Mommy." So whether that sticks, you know, when you have kids or not, I don't know, but Kyle can be a risk taker. Now, when Kyle was in high school, and the guidance counselor said, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? We won't pass judgment on the question. She said, I don't know, which I thought was a good answer. And then followed that with, but I don't want to do what my dad does, because he just talks on the phone and does email. Don't ask Kyle how much of her day is spent talking on the phone and doing email. So we really got to know Joe during COVID. And Joe sat in our den, our office, next to Kathy. Joe was working on spreadsheets. Kathy was working on videos and songs for sort of the online daycare experience. So Joe learned lots of children's songs. Kyle sat out at the kitchen counter, canceling trips, rebooking trips, canceling trips. Corey and I were both working in the basement with me talking on the phone and doing email. Kyle and Joe have found a good balance between sort of the Southwest companion fare Joe style of travel and the Indigare style of travel. Those are quite different, but this is something that Kyle has, perhaps worked on developing for years and years and years, because when she was 10, a friend of hers was going to be traveling to North Carolina to see his grandparents, traveling by himself. And on the way to gymnastics one night, I asked Kyle, I said, if you were to go someplace by yourself, where would you go? Thinking that she would say either, Kathy's mom's place or my parents' place. There was a long silence, and as we pulled into the parking lot, she goes, Australia. Business class. Sorry, Joe. I never met Tom. Kathy and I never met Tom. I only met Jean once, but I must say I'm humbled by the number of people that they touched and they inspired. And Joe and Kyle, you guys have got some big shoes to fill here. Good luck with that, because we're all counting on you to do all of that. Joe, welcome to our family. We are very excited to have you. Kathy and I are very excited to have you as a son, as you heard Corey is as a brother. And we had a lot of fun yesterday, last night, the games and everything. But as we stand here, and as much fun as today's going to be, and as great memories as you're going to have from today, I'm going to suggest that maybe the most important day of your wedding weekend is Monday, the day after tomorrow. Because after we've gone home, that's really the first day of the rest of your life together. And look forward to the great things and everything you're going to bring to our family. And congratulations and welcome. And if everybody can join me in a toast to Kyle and Joe.